1st of September 2023. This is a Warrafak moment. And for me it is it's actually a disturbing Warrafak moment. What is going on in Ukraine, apart from the fact that there's a war between Russia and NATO going on there, is that there was so much evil things going on in that country. We were totally unaware of it. And as the war progressed, more and more information came out. Now, if you take the biolabs, for instance, I have seen a lot of material about what is going on there. But the mainstream media is quiet about it. And the Western citizens is in denial about it. And then there's the case of the child trafficking, the organ harvesting, the adrenochrome harvesting, all horrific shit. And then the disturbing thing is that every now and then there is articles that comes out that ties some important Western people to those evil shit. The Russians have published a few documents about what was happening in those biolabs, but the Western media ignores it because it's from the Russians. Now the reality is this, and this is something that you have to take into consideration. You may not like it, but you have to keep it in mind. When the Skidmarks units raided those biolabs, they not only got the documentation and the samples, they got a lot of those scientists that were working there. And those scientists are sitting in Moscow. So keep that in mind. And then, I have said it many times, Zelensky is an agent, a puppet, and he is doing what the puppet master tells him to do. Ukraine's agricultural land, basically all of it, was sold off to Western conglomerates. That is something that you don't read. That's the reality of those things. Why is the West after the agricultural land in Ukraine? Why? Because they want to control your food and my food. That is part of the Triple X plan. Total control over the food supply. Don't forget that. But a very big portion, might be the majority of the Ukrainian agricultural land, is now under the control of the Russians. So those Western conglomerates are going to have a hell of a time. I would like to see them go to Moscow and put a land claim in. That will be fun. But in any case, so you've got that. And then there is this other thing. Zelensky is busy killing off the men in Ukraine. I see they're now taking the old guys, over 50s. Why is he killing off the men? For that Kalergi plan. Because he said he's going to bring immigrants in to sort the demographic problem out. All those men dead. There's a lot of women available for that Triple X soldiers. Same species that they send into England and send into Europe. Don't forget that. But let's get to a few facts or news items or what. I have used this previously, the followers of the channel will know it. The poster said, ja, hier kom het nou, Zelensky is 'n Jood, hulle werk met 'n plan. President Zelensky plans on using mass immigration to fix the country's demographic issues. We will become a new diverse and multicultural nation that will be the model state for the rest of Europe. This is what happens after you kill off all the white Christians in your country, after forcing them to fight in a globalist war that nobody asked for. And this is where I say, this is where the Kalergi plan is coming in. And don't forget, Zelensky is a Jew. And then we get to this disturbing stuff. Mass rally in Kiev. Relatives of missing and captured Ukrainian military personnel take to the streets. They ask to find and bring home their relatives. My younger brother still doesn't know that my dad has disappeared. We say that there's no communication. It's really hard when you don't know what's going on. You want to help, but you can't do anything, says one of the participants in the action. Now this is why is the mainstream media not flashing this all over the TV and papers and so forth? Why not? I have spoken in some of my Skidmarks, and the fact of the matter is, look at these people here. This is people concerned about their relatives that has been sent to the war. And I have spoken about it previously, about the cold storage railway trucks that was found near the Moldova border, packed with bodies. Then there's the reality that in the Donbass, now look at these people here, these two young boys. In the Donbass, now as the Russians are cleaning up in Bakhmut, they find Ukrainian soldiers' bodies in various stages of decomposition all over the place. Now, why is that happening? And you look at these people here. These people want to know what happened to their relatives, but they don't get answers. And there's a lot of denial from the West and the Ukraine government about what's going on the front lines. Look at this. The colossal losses of the Ukraine armed forces can no longer be hushed up. Even the BBC filmed a report on Ukraine's frighteningly sprawling cemeteries. In cemeteries across Ukraine, dead soldiers continue to arrive. Here in Lvov, near the border with Poland, very far from the fighting on the Eastern Front, fresh graves of soldiers number in the hundreds. In this cemetery on the hill, there are so many. Here they are clearing the way of fallen from past wars to make room for those who died in this conflict. These are the things that MSM doesn't show you, and for the deniers here in South Africa, you don't see this on SABC or on RSG or on ENBC. You don't see it. Listen to this. Ukrainian propaganda can no longer hide the catastrophic losses citizens are talking about them. Approximate expert estimates of the number of dead soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, periodically pop up on the web, not to mention its indirect signs. Either the next Ukrainian cemetery run out of space, or they are going to erect a whole necropolis near Kiev with a capacity of more than 400,000 graves. At the same time, the real losses remain a mystery, and not only for the international community but also for the Ukrainians themselves. The dead soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine are recorded as prisoners or missing, and sometimes they are simply not taken into account in any way. This is very convenient because this way you cannot announce the desperate situation that the authorities have brought the country to, and at the same time save on payments due to the relatives. This is something that I listened to interview with Ukrainian deserters telling the media in the Donbass. This is what the Ukraine army do. They leave those soldiers out there and nobody knows what happened to them, so they don't pay out benefits to the next of kin. Evil. Over time, the situation escalated so much that the problem broke out in the most unpleasant way for Kiev. Relatives of the dead and prisoners of the armed forces of Ukraine once again took the streets of the Ukrainian capital, demanding to recognize the obvious. One can only imagine how much it was necessary to bring the inhabitants of Ukraine so that in conditions of real terror, when one can get to the SBU for a pro-Russian picture, to the basement, people staged mass actions. And after all, it will not be possible to accuse the relatives of those killed of working for the Kremlin, unlike Zelensky and his entourage. These people have already sacrificed the most precious things for the sake of empty fantasies about independence and a European future. You have to keep pretending like nothing is happening. Zelensky, who has already fallen, not even under double, but under terrible fire, has no choice. This means that in its death throes, trying to take advantage of the closing window of opportunity, Kiev will continue to fight to the last Ukrainian. That is absolutely horrific. Zelensky is busy killing off the Ukrainian men. That is what he is doing. And then there is this, and it was on the redacted, trade in children and organs flourishes in Ukraine, while the world community buries its head in the sand and does not want to cover such sensitive topics, said the American journalist Clayton Morris. That is tragic, but those things are real. I've got other stuff that I've seen, how children are advertised on the dark web, and it is horrific what is going on there. Horrific. Kiev has relaxed the rules around organ export. When the doctors want to remove an organ from a soldier, a dead soldier, they don't need permission from the next of kin. It's easy to export the stuff. There's lots of rumors about soldiers still alive and then their organs are being removed. That is the things that is going on there. And then you get this. Every day when I leave for work in the morning, I see queues at one of the army recruitment centers. The Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Danilov. That's why people are caught like hares in Ukrainian cities. Even the disabled and pensioners are taken away. Apparently they just did not have time to get to the queue, and Danilov's sons live comfortably abroad. If Danilov's nose would increase while lying as in the cartoon Pinocchio, it would have already circled the globe and stuck in his ass. And this is the thing. This guy says that he sees the queues. I've seen hundreds of videos of how the Ukrainian soldiers are catching people on the street. Literally catching them on the street and sending them to the front lines. And if you don't know about it, there's a Hungarian enclave in Ukraine. They basically cleaned that enclave out. All the men there has been taken to the Donbass. What is that? That's genocide. But no, you Zelensky followers and worshippers don't want to hear this shit. That place, that Ukraine, is a snake pit. Before the war started, Ukraine was known to be the most corrupt country in the world. But all of these things come out, and you Ukraine lovers just like to ignore that and ignore that and ignore that and blame everything on the Russians. Go and look what's happening currently in the Donbass. The Ukraine is shooting civilians with American weapons. The IMAR systems are being programmed by the Americans. That Ukraine soldiers just push the buttons, but the Americans select the targets and they shoot schools. Today was the opening of the school season in Russia. And the Donbass children, their bus stops and their schools have been shelled. Over 60 shells went into Donetsk today. What the fuck is that? Look, if I was in a position of power in Russia, I would have wiped that fucking Ukraine off the map already. The Russians are too tolerant. But the problem is, like one Russian soldier said, for them, they're fighting their brothers. It's actually a civil war that's going on there. And that makes it difficult. But the West is pushing that war for its own reasons, their own selfish reasons. And then there's a lot of Americans that's got a lot of business interest in the Ukraine. And Ukraine is a nice laundry machine to launder American taxpayers' money back into the MIC and into the pockets of the big guy. So maybe it is time that you take an objective look at what the fuck is going on there, and then for a moment just think about it. It is real people's lives that are being ripped away from them every day. Can you imagine how many widows are there in the Ukraine today? How many orphans are there today? Oh yeah, I'm talking about orphans. I have seen an article this afternoon where there are Ukrainian people asking for assistance to find their children that were removed by the Ukraine government. But that is how it goes there. And if you look at the misery, you must ask yourself, who the fuck is benefiting from this war? Who is benefiting from this war? The people in Ukraine are suffering. And I mean, I'm going to refer back to it because that's something that is serious to me. The fact that Zelensky is killing all the young men, and now he's going to bring in immigrants for that single woman in the Ukraine. They want to destroy the Ukraine nation. There's going to be nothing left. And the world media is quiet about it. Nobody says a word. In any case, I thought I had to share this with you. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. And it's really important that you share. I see now once again on Twitter, I am so shadow banned there, it's unreal. I get messages from YouTube followers that say they don't get the notifications for my videos. I don't know. Sometimes I just want to throw the towel in, because I'm fighting against a fucking wall. But somebody has to say these things. Somebody has to show these things. In any case, that's my problem. Have a great evening.